In this video, we'll discuss measures of central tendency. The first measure we'll discuss is the mean, which is the calculated average of a set of numbers. To calculate the mean, we first determine the sum of the set of the numbers and then divide by the number of entries in the set. Notationally, you will see that x bar equals the sum of the x's divided by n. So let's look at an example. Say we find that the prices for a bottle of Coke in local stores are these 8 prices below, and we want to know what's the mean price. What we would do is we take and sum and add these 8 prices together, and then we divide by 8 since there were 8 total prices. When we do that, we get approximately $1.27. So we would say that the mean price for a bottle of Coke in local stores is about $1.27. The second measure is called the median, and this is the literal middle of a sorted set of numbers. So to find the median, we first have to order our data. Most commonly, that set of numbers is in order from least to greatest. Once it's in order, we then have to calculate, do we have an odd number of entries or an even number? If it's an odd number, it will be the most central entry that will leave an equal number of numbers on each side of that value. If it's an even number of entries, we take the 2 most central entries and calculate their average because the median is actually in between them. So let's go back to our example from a minute ago. We're looking at the bottles of Coke and we have these 8 prices and we want to calculate the median. In this case, we first have to order the data. Here I've put the data in order from least to greatest. Now, we know that because it's an even number of entries, because there are 8 entries here, we're going to take our 2 most central values. So we can cross them off from the ends to help us get to that middle. So cross them off, and then what are we left with? The 2 in the middle. And we can see we've crossed off 3 on each side, so we are in the most central part of our data. Since it's an even number, we're going to take the average of those 2 values, which will be $1.24. So the median price for a bottle of Coke in local stores is about $1.24. The third measure we'll discuss is called the mode. And the mode is the number that most frequently occurs in a set. You can have no modes, you can have 1 mode, or you can have 2 modes. It's important to realize that when we say there are 0 modes, it could be because no number appears more frequently or because more than 2 numbers appear frequently. Normally, we're going to use the mode with categorical data, although it can be used with numerical data as well. For example, we could look at the list we were just, the example we've had before, and say what's the modal price. And we can see there actually is a value that shows up more commonly. And we're looking for the repeated one, which is $1.23. So in this case, the modal price for a bottle of Coke in local stores was $1.23. And if you look at those 3 values, they were all very close together. $1.23 for the mode, $1.24 for the median, and $1.27 for the mean, all very close to one another. So the question then becomes, what is one of those measures better than another? The first thing that we have to pay attention to are outliers. Now, an outlier is an extreme data point that's well outside the general grouping of the set. So I want to say, does our data have any specific outliers that make one value better than another to use? If there is very little variance between the samples and the data is relatively symmetric and there is no major outliers, we would use the mean. So the key there is that the mean is not appropriate when there are outliers. The median will be used when our data becomes skewed by those outliers. So if you see that your data has a median where the value, or has an outlier where that value is well different than the others, use the median. And most commonly, we're going to use the mode when we have categorical or bimodal data. So let's look at our data here. And we have the age of students in a local college class, and we know what measure best describes this data. So when we're thinking about our measures of central tendency, our data is relatively compact, it's relatively symmetric, so in this case, we would use the mean. Now say we took that same data and there was an older student taking this class as well that was 54. Now, if we think about that number and that age of 54, that is significantly different than the rest of the data. It will skew the mean to a higher value because of how different it is than the rest. And because of that, the median becomes a better measure because it tells us more accurately where the center of our data is.